Hey guys, this is Comic Uno, and today I'm doing Comic Uno 265. So this is a show where I review all the comics I read this week in one show. I go least favorite to best pick of the week. And this week, I only had 12 books, a really short week. Next week looks like I'll have my normal amount, about 20 books. And sorry that last week I did not have my reviews. I was visiting my brother and didn't have a chance to review the book. So if you want my thoughts on those issues, go check out Frontline Live from last week. And Frontline Live is every Tuesday at 10 p.m. Eastern Time if you want my top 5 books and all other comic conversation. But yeah, let's get started. Number 12 for me this week was Detective Comics issue 992. Just have not been liking this Two-Face arc at all. Really haven't been able to get into it. And honestly, we are so close to issue 1000 and I'm just not feeling that Batman build-up that I feel like we should have had. And I think it is because Tynion left the series so early on. And then having these filler people, and then it's like, all right, Tomasi's taking over. So I think it's the weird kind of creative team jump and not having the same creative team all the way through. But yeah, I didn't like the artwork as well. I just didn't really like the style here, kind of blocky style of artwork. So honestly, I gave this 1.5 stars. Really just wasn't entertained, and honestly just picking up to follow through to issue 1000. I've been reading this series from the beginning, or else I would have dropped for this arc. But yeah, moving on to number 11, which is Superman issue 5. Really like this Adam Hughes cover. It still tickles. And with this issue, we get to see more of the mythology stuff. That's what the Superman book is. It kind of reversed from when Rebirth started, where Superman was more about the family and Action Comics was more about the action. Now Superman's more about the action, and Action Comics is more about like the daily lives / Daily Planet and Lois Lane stuff. But with this one, we get to see Zod into the picture, and obviously more with whatever this villain's name is. They have in the end. Always forget his name. Let's see. Rogel-Zar. Just have not been invested in this villain at all, and really not caring about the Kryptonian history stuff, and I feel we've been stuck in this arc for a while, and I just haven't been entertained with it. I do really love the artwork, though. That's one thing I've been really enjoying about both series, really. Some really A-list artwork with an A-list writer, but just not really caring about the direction of Superman compared to Action Comics, which I do like a bit more. So I'm going to give this one 2.5 stars. Moving on to number 10, which is Bloodshot Rising Spirit issue 1. A very different title from Bloodshot Salvation, which was my first, like, real get into Valiant book. It's been hard for me to get into Valiant because it is so continuity based and really has its own mythology, so it's been hard for me to get into. But that was really new reader friendly and I enjoyed it, so I wanted to pick up this issue. But now we are reverting back to the beginning and not about the family dynamic that I really enjoyed from Lemire's run. So I don't know how long I'm going to pick this one up for. Also, the artwork is not as good as it was for that Salvation series where we had those 2 different artists. I really loved the realistic feel to it. Here, a bit more cartoony, a little bit more, I want to say abstract, the proportions in some of these panels here, just a little less detailed. But yeah, just not the style that I really enjoyed from Salvation, writing and artwork wise. So we get to see the beginnings of him though, so if you enjoy that aspect, you might enjoy it, but just didn't really have a hook for me here, so I'm not sure if I'm going to get issue 2. But yeah, gonna give that one 2.5 stars, and that was number 10. Alright, moving on, just let's see. Number 9, which is Wonder Woman, issue 58, which I did an in-depth review for, so I won't go into too much detail. But once again, artwork not as good as what the writer is here. You know, G. Willow Wilson, A-list writer, going on to DC to write Wonder Woman, and the proportions just kind of feel really off. I didn't really care for the facial expressions, like over here, where it's actually a really fun scene where we get to see Wonder Woman smacking Steve's behind, and her face doesn't look like Wonder Woman at all, just not detailed. So I didn't really like the artwork. And then also the mythology stuff with Ares and Darkseid's daughter, Grail, felt very fillerish to me and wasn't a real hook until we got to the Steve and Wonder Woman stuff, and the cliffhanger of the issue, which I'm somewhat curious about. So, giving this one 3 stars. I like the way G. Willow Wilson writes Wonder Woman, but it's kind of everything around it that didn't really grab me as much as I wanted this book to grab me. So I'm going to give that 3 stars. Moving on to number 8, which is Miss Marvel issue 36. Very upset to see this so low because we are going to have a bit of a hiatus with this book. I think until January we're going to have the next issue. So, and I love this title. But damn, was this a filler issue. We get to go into this kind of, you know, heavy idea, which I haven't been loving, that Ms. Marvel gets her powers from time. So we get this weird story of Zoe, Josh, and Kamala and Bruno in the past in another time, where how Kamala's, like, ancestors met. But still her name's Kamala, still there's a Bruno. It got very confusing because they put in the names that we know, but it's supposed to be the past. So I didn't really get it. Like, I understood, like, the funness they were going for, but as a past character and as an ancestor of Kamala, it was a little strange to me. And I didn't feel like they played with the environment as much as they could have. Like, it was a fun concept, but I wanted even more character moments. Maybe especially because we haven't seen Josh or Zoe in a while. Especially Josh, though. I wanted more moments from them. Yeah, I'd rather have just seen them in the present time instead. I think this would have been a more entertaining issue. But I do like how Bruno and Kamala are trying to figure out their feelings. That's been good. So, giving this 3 stars. I really like Nico Leon's artwork, though. I think every issue just gets more detailed, and I just like that he's been a mainstay for the title, because for a while there was like a couple of different artists on there, and I really think both Ian Herring and Nico Leon's style really fits Miss Marvel, so definitely enjoy the artwork there. Moving on to number 7, which is Uncanny X-Men issue 1. I also did an in-depth review on this, so I won't go into too much detail, but obviously it's that big huge price tag, $7.99. I personally didn't really like the side stories we got in the end. I felt like we could have told that in different places. It felt a little bit too big to me. But I overall like the story. I think there's definitely some things we've seen before, like the whole serum stuff, and them trying to wipe away mutants. But the cliffhanger is what really got me, where Kitty's kidnapped, the Senator, and Apocalypse looks to be kidnapped. So definitely like that aspect, and that's what I'm more interested in. And then, of course, whoever's looking over Jean Grey should be interesting. And I also like that it feels like an X-Men book. It doesn't feel separated at all. It's not, here's the red team, here's the X-Men black team. It feels like they're just one X-Men again, which I've definitely missed. So overall, I'm going to give this 3.5 stars. It is definitely has some pacing issues, but I think there's some promise here. And I believe it's a weekly series, so we'll see how that plays out. So I'm going to give that 3.5 stars. And that was number 7. Moving on to number 6, which is Birthright, issue 33. Definitely higher than it usually is. I thought this was a big improvement, focusing on Brennan and his powers, and him always feeling like he was second compared to Mikey, especially after he went missing. So I enjoyed that aspect in this character controlling him, and then seeing Mikey's past with magic was fun, and seeing more with his I don't know if they're married. I'll say wife. I'm not sure if they're married or not. But yeah, I enjoyed more of the character moments here, where I feel like the past issues have been focusing so much on mythology and kind of forgot about the family aspect, which I've always enjoyed about the series. So I'm going to give that 3.5 stars. Still, for me, the artwork sometimes, rendering-wise, feels unfocused, but I've kind of gotten used to that as, obviously, 33 issues have passed. Moving on to number 5, which I love this cover, and that is Fantastic Four issue 3. Got the She-Hulk. I don't even know what they call these. I feel like it's a gaming cover or something. Oh yeah, Battle Lines? I don't know. Maybe it's a app or something, but, yeah, I like this issue. We get to see the Fantastic Four are back, and we get to see the extended family as well, which was fun. I do think it crowded things, though, just like kind of what Dan Slott did with Spider-Verse. I'm like, it's a really great concept, but it feels a bit too crowded. But I like that the main focus here obviously was the main team, and I feel like everyone from the main team had a voice, and it felt like they haven't seen each other in a long time, exactly what you want it to feel like, and you get to finally see them together and hug it out and work together. So I had a good time with it. I don't think Pacelli's artwork was as strong as it usually is with some of the facial expressions, but overall, I like the art for the most part, especially because, again, there's just so many characters to play out, and for the most part, I think she did a good job with it. So I'm going to give this 4 stars. I thought it was a really solid issue, and I'm really excited for the next chapter of Fantastic Four now that they're all together. So moving on to number 4, which maybe should have been Fantastic Four since that is 4, but that was number 5. But moving on to number 4, which is Go-Go Power Rangers issue 14. A really fun concept where we get to see Jason and Trini have switched colors, which for the promotion I thought it was going to be all of them switching colors. So it's cool that it's just these two and they were lost. So what's fun is seeing Kimberly, Billy, and Zach try to balance their lives while also coming up with lies that Jason and Trini are just like sick. So that was a lot of fun. I also really like that we got to learn more about Rita. We get to learn a little bit more about her mythology in this issue. My only complaint here, the artwork for me, the facial expressions aren't as strong as Dan Mora's, but I do like that the style fits for the most part with Dan Mora, and the coloring obviously really helps with that as well. But yeah, I thought it was a really solid issue. I definitely want to see more with the idea of the color switch, because we know that's going to be something we see with the arc. Right now, the issue is just them getting comfortable. So I would say it's very much a setup issue, but there's definitely a lot of fun character moments. Like, I like Kimberly's going out with Skulls, so that's going to be cool. Or at least, you know, they're going out on a date because she's upset about Matt. So I'm excited for those things to play out, and I thought there were some cool character moments throughout. So I'm going to give this a solid 4 stars, and that is number 4. Moving on to number 3, which is The Flash, issue 58. I love this cover, and honestly, a really solid book, and I'm glad the artwork is a lot better than it has been. That's been my complaint, because I've actually really liked the story for The Flash, and I think it's a much improved book since Flash War, or I guess after. It was Flash War is where it improved. But I love that Iris and Barry are working together to figure out more about the Speed Force and learning more about it. So I like that, and it's a simple issue. It's just them teaming up and kind of figuring out very small pieces of the overall mystery. So it felt like a classic Flash issue for me, and like I said, I was just happy that the artwork improved for this one, and I like the Iris and Barry dynamic. So I'm going to give this one 4 stars, and that is number 3. Moving on to number 2, really enjoyed this issue, and that is the Amazing Spider-Man issue 9. I got the X-Men variant for this one, and I was pleasantly surprised. I haven't been liking the Thief storyline, but I really like where Nick Spencer has put Black Cat, because obviously that has been a really inconsistent character for a while, since when did she betray? Oh, since Superior Spider-Man, where she's like, oh, you betrayed me, even though it was Dr. Octopus, and for some reason she couldn't put that through her head. But here it feels like their genuine team up like it usually is, but of course Black Cat, not because she hates Peter, just because she's her, kind of betrays him in a way where he's only getting half the stuff that the people stole, and she's getting the other half. But that felt very Black Cat to me, and it didn't feel like it was out of anger, where it's like, I hate you because you're Otto, and you weren't Otto, and this weird, confusing storyline that just went for way too long. So I like that they finally went back to what they were, but without forgetting what happened in the continuity. But what really made this issue, and I think the artwork was really good for this too, and I like that they had 2 different artists, was Mary Jane. I love that it is Mary Jane's story. That's obviously connected to Peter, but it's very much her own story. And, you know, I was a worry from the beginning of the series where I'm like, is MJ just going to be the girlfriend? And you really see that she has her own story as well with this story. And we get to see old characters like Carly Cooper say, hey, you know, there's this group called The Lookup. Or I think it's The Lookup. Let me see. I think that's what it's called. But anyway, so there's this group, and at first I'm like, oh no, she joined the cult. I thought like Carly Cooper was gonna be a villain or something, and MJ is gonna like sneak her way in. But we actually get to see that Jarvis is the head of this, and if you know superhero comics and Marvel, you could kind of tell who the characters are that showed up. We got Ganke. I love that Peggy, Cassie Lang's mom, showed up. If you don't know, Nick Spencer wrote Ant-Man, and I really liked his second volume with how he wrote Cassie, and I really liked that last arc, so I was happy to see her. We get to see, like, Foggy, Pepper Potts. So it's cool to see that. I love that panel, and MJ, you know, trying to figure out how she's going to do this and if she's going to do this. So I'm really excited to see where that arc's going to go. And I thought there were some really cool, surprising faces here. Even in the beginning of the issue, that didn't have to do with this group, but with the thieves. We get to see the Hawkeyes and Squirrel Girl's squirrel going missing. So there's a lot of cool cameos in this issue I really enjoyed. So overall, I thought this was a really solid issue, and I like the new concepts, but old concepts playing together here. So overall, I'm going to give this 4.5 stars, and that was my number 2 pick. Moving on to number 1, which is Mr. Miracle, issue 12, the last issue of this, and I love this. I got the variant cover, Darkseid is, and you get to see this like little cute position of Mr. Miracle trying to open the curtain. But I really enjoyed this series overall, and it really grew on me. I remember the first issue where I'm like, I don't know anything about the New Gods, well, I like this. And then as the series went on, especially as it became so relatable, it just became one of my favorite DC titles, and I guess one of my favorite titles going on right now. I love the 9-panel grid. I just love the small touches that make it feel realistic. You know, him shaving his beard, small moments like that, especially with the kid. I thought it really felt realistic, and them doing day-to-day things has been, and slice-of-life things, has been what really made this book. But obviously, what I also liked is kind of the complicated idea of Mr. Miracle trying to wrap his head around what matters, you know? This kind of existentialist idea of does anything that we do matter? And we get to see these characters that are from his past and future, from his family line, and he tries to figure that out. Like, what does matter? Does any of this matter? Especially because he almost lost his life, you know? I guess that's kind of murky still. Like, did he die? Did he not die? I don't know if we really got the answer to that. I liked it. I really liked the dialogue here, and how you could kind of read it interpret it in different ways, and in this kind of intense psychological story that ends up being for the end of this series. And we'll see if we get more. I hope we do, because I really enjoyed it. So overall, I'm going to give this 4.5 stars. I love the creative team. I love the art. Really enjoyed the ending. I thought it was a good chapter to the book. And if you haven't read Mr. Miracle, now's your shot to hopefully read it all, because it was a really good series. So hopefully you guys enjoyed. This is Comic Uno, and of course, I'll have Comic Uno episode again next week with a more normal sized pile. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter. Don't forget to like my Facebook page. Also, description below, there are links for my comic book Like Father, Like Daughter. And yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed. Bye.